and this one's quite a loaded first story. It is the new EU banknotes that are coming out. Apparently they haven't updated them since 2002, and they've got 10 different approaches from 10 different designers. Before we hop into it, I want to just kind of call out the two different approaches. So there's European culture, and then there's also rivers and birds. When we're looking at the people for the design contest, it is Maria Callas, an opera singer who was actually part American too, which is really interesting. Beethoven, Marie Curie, a physicist and chemist known for research on radioactivity, Miguel de Cervantes, who wrote Don Quixote, and Leonardo da Vinci, Italian painter, engineer, inventor. I mean, he did a million different things. And Bertha von Suttner, who is an Austrian author and the first woman to win the Nobel Peace Prize. Then as far as birds go, the scarlet wall creeper, then there is the kingfisher, the bee eaters, the white stork, the avocet, and then northern gannet. You can see them all put together right here in this fun little survey. And there were over 1,200 applicants, and 25 of them were invited to submit design proposals. And then an independent jury of 21 experts then shortlisted 10 designs, running from July 23rd all the way until September 21st. One of the reasons why they're recreating these is to find new ways to create bills and notes that are more environmentally friendly. And let's take a look at all these different options. This is proposal A. It's horizontal. They're doing these photographic type cut-ins where obviously there is not a photograph of like Beethoven or something, but they all feel like as if they have been photographed, and then they have this overlapping color. I really do like this overlapping color. I think that it adds a nice extra element into it while still being recognizable. This is proposal B. This is birds. These are very colorful. They're very beautiful. For some of them though, they begin to look a little bit similar. So 20 and 10 here, obviously different birds, but they have a similar pose of kind of looking over to the left. I do think that if you're going to be doing something where you have 6 options, I would make sure that like all 6 are facing different directions or have something else going on. They have architecture on the back, but the architecture isn't that fun. It doesn't really feel like it. So, I mean, these are all great. Every single one of these are good. This is not my top choice. Proposal C, this is one of the ones that I would put on my short list of things that I like. I actually really love how this is a piano, and you know, this has alchemy in it, and this is a book. Like, those are really, really cool, and the back is cool. I don't know what the constellation stands for on top of each. I'm not sure if they're tied to something specific or not, but I do think that they are very pretty and they work well. You do have the one change where everything has white on the side, and when you're looking at it in your wallet, it's going to be a little bit harder to tell just because it has that big case of white, but I do really think that they're pretty. This one is all these different birds going in and out of geometric forms, and you see one side is vertical and one side is horizontal. This is unlike any of the other ones that are actually included in the selection because they have both ways. When it comes to situations like this with number 10, I don't understand the hand and the placement here. This is proposal E. These ones feel the most American to me, not taking any huge creative risks, but also not really stepping on their feet at all. I think that they're safe and they work. I like the radial design that they have here. So there's a radial piano behind here. There's some DNA style structure that goes behind here, and the opera singer having the stadium right here that then turns into this, which is really pretty and cool. They've also got these cool notes on the side. So there are fun little small details, but this one definitely plays it really safe. These possibly are my least favorite. They are not awful, but they are a little bit too chaotic for me. They are definitely going off an abstract vibe. They feel less serious to me. It is a money representation after all, and these don't feel like they represent money. There is some cool stuff like when they're doing the inverted color here and they're switching it in and out to draw your attention to the middle. But I think the legibility goes. Now, we're going to look at this one. I love the colors of this one, and it's immediately identifiable as to which is which because of the color, because they are so vibrant, because they are so loud. But my biggest issue is I'm not wild about some of the characters. This isn't my favorite portrait. This one is great, but I don't really like this one. And then on the back, the illustrations feel a little too stiff, especially with ones like singing here. Finally, we have this one, which is one of my favorites, and it's another bird one. These are horizontal again, and while they do have just architecture on the back, they play with gradients and color. They're constantly going from light to dark and bringing things forward and backwards into the composition. again, I think that it's abundantly clear what the number is. Like, this is one of the first things you look at, no matter how pretty the illustrations are. The yellow in particular looks so beautiful, and the birds are really magnificent. Then this might be my number one, which is Proposal J. These are beautiful illustrations. They feel like works of art to me. They feel like book covers to me. They're vertical, which is cool when you're flipping them out of your wallet. They have the wing silhouette on the back of each, so even though there's architecture on the back, it still ties in the idea of having the bird. I think that all the birds are very different looking, and then some of the details on these like watercolor vibes are so pretty. And then last but not least is this one, another bird one, which is also up there, and it's way more collage style. I think this one's really strong as well. Same sort of thing where they're calling out color in the right ways. I think that you can find the numbers very quickly, and overall very good. These are the 10 contenders. You can vote, and you are encouraged to vote no matter where you are in the world, because they want to hear everyone. They do ask where you are from and everything at the end, so I'm not sure if that comes into play at all. A world effort, and interested to see where they land come September, and then I think it lands in everybody's wallets, I think next year in 2027. And then I only have one other story for rebrand for you guys today, and this is going off of John Oliver's Buc-Off. This is a initiative that he announced on his show this week, and if you guys are unaware, Buc-ee's sue other companies often, and those companies sometimes don't have the means to represent themselves. For example, here they sued the moose over here. They sued this alligator one before. This is crazy. I would never confuse these two. Also, like, this is probably even a better illustration than Buc-ee's. Tell me I'm wrong. So John Oliver kind of was up with it, and he's like, I have good lawyers. What we're going to do is we are going to start an initiative called Buc-Off, and they're going to use this animal mascot and start selling merch with hats and shirts and pants all off of bucoff.com, and all of the proceeds go to Hunger Free America. So his whole thing is like, if you guys are going to sue me, you're taking money away from Hunger Free America, so what are you going to do about it? But interesting to see him do that. It's a whole nother world of non-designers suddenly being aware of a designer story, which I think is always really fun and weird and exciting. All right, let's start with a dark one, just because I'm going to get it out of the way. It's some bad news, and it's not very fun. This is coming from Petapixel. Pasala Bandera is talking about how a dog photographer lost a copyright battle over an AI-generated comic version of her image. An unnamed animal photographer who sold underwater photo shots sued a former business partner who used one of her original images, showing a dog diving towards a red toy, as input for an AI software that generated a comic-style version, and the former collaborator later published that AI-generated image onto their website. This is the two parts, one of them being the original dog photo on the left and the AI image on the right. And the court said that it did not infringe on copyright, which is boo. That is, in my professional Ryan Selvey opinion, a bunch of baloney. It says that it does not infringe because a photography ruling has to work with things like framing, perspective, lighting, and sharpness, and the motif and the subject themselves aren't protected. So the court found that the AI image doesn't copy the protectable elements of the original photograph, but it's the same photograph. It's the same toy. It's the same type of dog. I mean, a dog is just a dog, but I mean, if that was like Mickey Mouse, man. I look at the teeth coming forward underneath the snout, the bubbles. I know in school they sometimes told us to be really careful about ever using stock photos for any sort of illustration reference to be able to create works of art, because then if you're not licensing or properly referencing that work, then that could also even be copyright. So to see something that is so brazenly taking someone else's copyright and then owning it as your own, and then also just being like, it's okay, is super lame and makes me very worried about the future of copyright law and what comes next. We will see. Let's keep it rolling hot with AI news though. And this was actually really funny because Reddit is a huge force of the search engine for Google, so much so that a few years ago, Reddit and Google came to an agreement where they said, you get exclusive rights to be able to crawl our website for your AI to be able to pull information from images, user posts, content, text, you name it. So the agreement that they originally had is coming to an end, and Reddit came out and was basically like, I don't know if we're going to end up renewing this agreement where you have exclusive rights to our website with your AI crawler, because it is completely obliterating our web traffic. And this is not just unique to Reddit. This is a big deal for Reddit because they announced it and then their shares went down because they are a public company, and people are worried about this relationship, because that means that if it's also not on Google, when people search search on Google, they're not going to go to Reddit. So like, which is worse? Being able to not get any traffic from things being pulled from, or putting a line in the sand saying you can't use anything, or just have some people click through. What was really interesting is I remember seeing an article and I was trying to find it. And so I looked up Google used to be a safe haven. And it was really funny that the AI overview on Google at the top that was there of a Google search was like, it really was. Like, Google started as a minimalist objective tool designed to get you off its page and onto the information you actually wanted. But that simple search portal has been replaced by a heavily congested ecosystem. Like, dude, it's you. You're the one. I know they're pulling it in this case. You can see the sources. They're coming from How to Geek, and like they're pulling the direct overview of that actual thing. But it is really funny. They're like, yeah, no, you're totally right. That's crazy. That's crazy. The New York Post is also reporting on it. This was the one that I was actually originally looking for. And it says that USA Today is thinking about pulling out of an agreement with Google. Politico is thinking about pulling out, as well as Business Insider, because USA Today had their traffic plummet by nearly half over the 12 months. Traffic for Politico plunged 23%, and then 85% of Business Insider plunged, because basically it is kind of poisoning the water hole in the idea that Google is pulling from all these websites but not giving traffic back. And so they're trying to figure out what that looks like and what that changes. As creators, something to be keeping in mind is that the things that you create, depending on the platforms that you post on, might be pulled and brought somewhere else, and they might not show up in your analytics. You might not get proper credit for it, or who knows, someone might make another image out of it in Germany. It's fine. But just something to be fully aware of. And it'll be interesting to see where the internet is in the next few months, because if all these companies start pulling out, all these AI systems also will not work as well, which then does that force anyone's hand, or does that just redirect the traffic as to where all their sources are coming from? Because a lot of times, a lot of Google searches ended up on Reddit anyway. So very interesting. This is more of the written word as far as creators, but is still important. Substack has introduced a AI detector into their platform based off of Pangram, which is a service that is apparently 99.98% positive of finding AI text. I don't know how I feel about that number. It says that it will now help users determine whether they're reading something that's been created by AI, and that they can analyze content longer than 100 words by choosing the scan for AI text option with the 3-dot menu in the top right corner of a post. This is coming from Emma Roth at The Verge. And you can see an example of their platform here, where you can see that it has analyzed and said that, this is coming from a human. When I posted onto Substack the other day, I saw that there was a way to analyze your own work and then be able to also speak to it. So you can put a little badge on it. But this is another way that people are starting to try to combat and wrestle with the idea that so much is being created online. And in our last bad news story of the day, Instagram is now banning pickup artists and pranksters who use meta glasses, which that itself isn't a bad thing. But the thing is that it is happening at all. And Adam Mosseri, who is the CEO of Instagram, went onto his stories and he said, if you're posting content that is taking advantage of people or harassing them, or if you're doing something like pickup line kind of videos, that they're going to ban that content. They said they don't want people to be taking videos of other people without their consent and being able to harass others. Now, this is a problem of their own making, and also how are they going to enforce it? What is it going to look like? At what point is consensual filming consensual and not consensual? Because there's things right now where people pull out a phone right now and they record totally not consensual. Is that all prank videos? Is that anything where someone looks bad? What does that look like? How are they going to enforce that? Also, Apple is reportedly supposed to give out their glasses, or announce their glasses, in June of 2027, less than a year now. And apparently they're shaking in their boots because the backlash to these glasses are so high. As we always say, these glasses aren't nefarious by design. They can be used for really cool things for creators. If you're doing something with your hands and you want to record something, if you're at a concert and you want to record the concert, you don't have to hold up your phone. There are some really cool use cases for it. I think the biggest issue that people are running into is the idea of consent, and then just the idea that cameras are on everyone's faces. Finally, on to some good news here. We have the future of design. This is designerboss.co. This is the free convention with 25 plus world-class speakers from August 25th to 26th of 2026. And it is the future of design. It has some gigantic names that you may know. You can get a free ticket. And then also, once you sign up, you can get a discount for some resources and access to more talks. You can go to designerboss.co. I did want to just do a little bit of personal news, where we have the first episode of Design Cash is up. We talked a little bit about this last week, and I was launching a newsletter. I wasn't sure exactly what we're going to call it. I ended up landing on Design Cash, which I'm very happy with. And if you go to ryanselby.beehive.com, that's Ryan Selvey, RyanSelby.beehive.com, BEEHIID.com. You will then get to the design cache, and I had a lot of fun putting it together. What it is a way more casual approach to some of the design things that I come across, some news stories that maybe don't make it into File New, and then of course updates about the videos that I make. Some things that we talked about in the newsletter that I don't think even made it on a File New last week was like there's some new emojis that were announced for 2027, including a pickle and a cracked face. It's got some thumbs pointing towards it as well. Tomorrowland happened this last weekend, and they had a gigantic stage. It was the biggest ever. Last year it burned down, so that's very creative. And then things like the Open to Work LinkedIn badge is actually something that works, even if it feels cringe, amongst other things. Then I also am including design things that I've come across throughout the week that don't necessitate an entire video. For example, we were driving on the highway, and there was this trucking company, and it looked like it didn't say trucking. It looked like it said something else. I did like a double take, and then I actually wasn't driving, thankfully. And I had Aaron, my husband, go and slow down so that I could go and take a picture of it. I'm sure the truck driver was like, what are you doing? I edited it out, obviously the phone number stuff. I'm not looking to dox anyone, but that is the importance of making sure that you look at scalability, you look at the type together, and you also work on your kerning, because if they were farther apart, it would probably look a little bit different. If you sign up for the newsletter, you also get little updates on the bottom about the week's videos that I do, and of course linking back to File New. If you're not already, be sure to follow me on YouTube, youtube.com/RyanSelby, and this is also available as a podcast if you're interested. Coming from the lovely folks at Motion Mondays, they always do a Monday roundup of a bunch of different motion graphics updates, and I fully recommend checking it out. They do it every single week, and they were calling out 2 different paid plugins that are now available for After Effects for our motion designers on there. This one's $69, and it is a graph editor that is way more comprehensive than the one that is just fundamentally built into After Effects, which I personally have always kind of just been able to work with. But this one has a dockable graph editor, so you don't have to switch in and out of your keyframes for it. It has real zoom and pan. You can have all properties at once, so you don't have to highlight things differently and go back. You can do tangent breaks. There's a lattice cage to reshape an entire selection all at once, and so you can look left to right. So that is from the folks at Citron. And then we have 2 ones from TAC. These are just a selection of actually 4 different After Effects add-ons that they have. The first one is Collect Files Pro. It says that the native Collect Files tool has not been entirely helpful for them. So they said that they've rebuilt it from the ground up with things like being able to generate reports for it. They're able to then bring open the entire collected product at the end. They can rename the footage of the folder and it doesn't get messed up, and just gives you a bunch of handy information. And then there's Align Pro, which is very similar to the approach to aligning objects in Illustrator, but in After Effects. You can create groups when you're aligning them. You can distribute things a little bit more with like pixelation between, so that it's not just like optical division, but you can also say that you want it to be like 19 pixels or something. And then it's also able to understand where text is if it is distributing it. So it's not just doing the text box, it's doing a bunch. That is also for sale. That's $32 at the time of broadcast. With 55% of the vote, it looks like La Mericana is font of the week. There are 12 weights of it on Adobe Fonts, and it is a serif display font. And it has a high X height, which always is better when it's larger and being able to display. It features exaggerated wedge serifs, reduced vertical ascender, which goes along with the high X height. Basically, X height is where the height of the X goes, but you'll also see it where it's often kind of like the top of the A or the E. And then the ascenders are things that kind of extend beyond it. So let's talk about like the stem of an H, or anything else that kind of goes vertical. And since the X height is higher in this section, that often makes it that the ascender portion is going to be a little bit more squeezed because there's more spot for the bottom part. It's warm, it's nostalgic, it has broad letters, short tails, and sharp triangular feet. And if we look at it in a sentence, you can say, Ryan Selby quickly jazzed up amazing bold graphics for the next Wednesday's File New broadcast. But this was a fun episode this week. We will be back again this time next week, same time, same place on Adobe Live. Please do me a favor and check out Ryan Selby on YouTube, youtube.com/Ryan Selby. Subscribe to the Design Cache. Thank you guys for all of your input on a bunch of the different stories. Always love talking to you guys and hearing what you think about stuff. But I will go ahead and I will talk to you all real soon. Thank you for watching. Bye.